So here we have the update on the UNS 60 Blackwater tank, and unfortunately, it's not in the best spot as you can see. Right now, in the middle of taking it down, well, not taking it down, just doing like pretty much 100% water change, just kind of switching things out and stuff. And yeah, I'll just go over some of the problems I've had with this tank real quick, and then off camera, I'm gonna drain the rest of it, scrub all the glass and stuff, and then in a couple days we should see a revamp of this tank. So, what problems have I faced so far in this tank? Well, as you can see, there was a kind of a battle with some blue green cyano. That did go away. We can still see some like reminiscences of it on the glass and stuff, and as well as a lot of the leaf litter has broken down and stuff. So you can see like a lot of the pieces of it and stuff, and things like that. And as well as the wood, there was this really bad. You can still see some of it right there. Weird looking biofilm, or it might be mold. I'm not 100% sure. But that started forming all over the wood and the botanicals and stuff. So it seems to have gone away with there being less light, but you can still see some of it is still there. So I'm probably just gonna have to scrub that off. And as well, the Java Fern Windelov. I don't know if this happened in the last video or not, but I did cut it. And you can see that there are some reminiscences of it coming back from the rhizome. The Valsneri is doing okay, suffering a bit because of the blackout. And then there's one zebra near snail in here, and that's about it. So what I'm gonna do is just drain the rest of the tank. The wood should be already waterlogged, so I can actually put it the way that I've always wanted to put it. So that'll be nice. And you can see that the dwarf aquarium lily has actually absolutely exploded. I'm sorry, I'm getting my words mixed up. But I've counted maybe 10 to 15 new leaves here. And if you remember this from the setup video, it just started as a little bulb that was somewhere over here. And then you can see it's just grown roots over time, and rooted itself into here. But the reason that this is here is because originally I wanted this kind of towards the back corner, which in this new revamp we should see it in the back corner. Since I'm hoping to move it maybe more towards here, since that's going to be the lower flow area, as I want the filter over there, and as well as maybe the Valsneri getting moved a bit, kind of just spreading it out so it looks more like sporadic, which might look nice. I'll have to try that. The coconut hut, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it. I might leave it in here for breeding purposes, which we'll see soon. So that's still undecided. But yeah, in the new revamp, we should see new plants, a new filter, and just a whole different look to this tank. So what I'm going to do is again drain it, and we should be back in a couple days. So this is it. We have the new scape for the UNS 60 Blackwater tank, and honestly, I really love how it came out. I think it's so much better than the last scape, especially because the wood is now waterlogged. I can actually put it the way I want it to without having it sink. Oh, I'm sorry, without having it float to the surface, since all the air and stuff is out of it. It allows me to get that look that I've always wanted, and I'll just do a quick rundown of the equipment, new plants, and new botanicals I added, and what my plans are for the new feature for this tank. So for the equipment, we have the same Awaze 100 watt heater. It's set at around 77 to 78 degrees. And for the new filter, I have the Dymax SlimFlow 500, which is their largest version. And the reason I went with this one is because I saw a lot of people using it on their rimless tanks, and it's also, as in the name, really slim. So there's not that huge gap that you have when you use other hang-on bag filters on rimless tanks. And as well as with how close the tank is to the wall, I just don't think something like an Aqua Clear or a Seachem Tidal would have fit back there. So I just went with the Dymax Slimflow, and I think it worked out really well. And another thing I like about it is that you can control the flow with the little knob on the front. And this is important to me because when I had it on the highest flow, the current was too strong to where the botanicals and the leaves would start to go up. By that I mean like they would get disturbed from the current, so the current would kind of take them and have them float around. And as well as the surface was kind of really agitated, which in a lot of cases that's a good thing, so, because it helps with oxygen exchange and as well as preventing a buildup of surface scum or surface film on the top of the water. So overall it's a good thing to have, but for this tank and for the fish I'm going to have, low flow is where they really like it, since in the wild where they come from, the water's really stagnant, so there's not much flow, and pH and hardness are really low. The water's stained with botanicals, of course, and the lighting is also really low. So that's what I'm trying to incorporate into this aquarium, and I actually put the filter on the lowest setting because of that, and I think for now it'll serve just fine. As for new plants and an update on the past plants, this is the part that gets me the most excited, because I think the new plants that we have, and as well as the dwarf aquarium lily bulb that has taken off, really make this aquarium what it is. So for new plants, I have two Anubias Barterii variety diamond, and the reason I went with the Barterii diamond is because from the pictures the leaves look very broad or very big, and I can tell that that's actually true with some of the leaves in the ones that I got. So that's really nice, since that's a factor I'm looking for, which I'll talk about in a bit why I'm looking for some of those factors. And as well, the plant itself just looked really nice, and I really like the look of it, and that aspect did not fail either. So with these guys, I just kind of put them in their rhizome between some of the branches on the Bantigue root, and I have one towards the lower end of the root and one towards the higher end, and I think that adds a really nice contrast of green to the whole tank. And the reason I did this is because if you didn't know, things like Anubias and Java Fern are epiphyte plants, so that means that if you actually bury their roots into substrate, they'll actually die because they won't be getting the nutrients they need. So what a lot of people do is they like to glue Anubias or Java Fern to rocks or tie them down, and if you have like spaces where you can just kind of put their rhizome between some branches and have the roots kind of hang into the water column, that's fine too, since I actually got the idea from Tanner Serpa Design when he did a similar Blackwater tank, and I personally think that's a way better look than having it glued down, because the glue kind of throws it off a bit. So I'm happy that with the Bantigue root I was able to do that. And another plant that I got that I'm really excited to see how it grows is Crypticorn Wendetti Green. I'm just gonna call it Crypt Wendetti Green for now, for short. And the reason I got this plant, and the reason I'm so excited for it, because you know it is a really common plant, very beginner friendly, is because of its growth pattern. Like other crypticorns, of course, it kind of grows in like a small bush, and the reason I'm really excited about that is because I got one pot that had two plants in it, so I put one plant on each side of the wood, and the reason I'm happy about that is because as it grows over time, those Crypt Wendetti greens will make a small bush at the base of the root or the wood, where the rocks are, and I think that's going to look extremely nice. And I know my tank is going to be more plant heavy in terms of Blackwater tanks, since Blackwater tanks aren't necessarily the most heavy planted. A lot of them don't even have plants in it themselves, since you know in the wild where these fish come from, there's actually not many plants, if any plants at all, in their rivers and streams where they live. But I just like the look of live plants, and they also, you know, help filter the water and stuff, so it doesn't hurt that much. As for the dwarf aquarium lily bulb that I got from Aquarium Co-op, I think around 2 months ago, that thing has taken off extremely well, and by extremely well I mean like I counted at least 13, 14 leaves, but I'm pretty sure there's more little ones that are just starting to pop up. And yeah, you can just see the sheer height that these leaves and stalks are actually taking, and I'm really happy about this because in the old system or the old scape of this tank, the bulb was actually at the front of the tank because there wasn't enough space in the back. But with this new scape, one of my first priorities was, okay, where can I put the bulb in one of the back corners to where it would look nice? And I think in this scape it really lives up to that because it's in the back right corner where it's a little bit darker, and once the leaves get all the way to the surface to make like actual lily pads, it really is going to provide a lot of surface cover for some of the fish that I do plan on getting, and overall it just looks really nice in the tank, and it's a really nice plant in general. I think I had one a couple years ago that didn't do extremely well, so having this one just doing as well as it is with no root tabs or fertilizers at all. I actually don't own any freshwater fertilizers, so, and as well as it's growing in sand as well, to see it doing this well is absolutely amazing. And if I do start putting in root tabs in here, since I do have the crypts in the substrate, the dwarf aquarium lily bulb in the substrate, and maybe one more plant that I'll add to the substrate, nutrient deficiency might be a thing that sprouts up, so if I do put root tabs in there to help give the plants an extra boost, I'm really excited to see how the dwarf aquarium lily will do. So in terms of hardscape and substrate, I'm just going to touch on those things that I'm using in the tank. So for substrate, I'm using just white pool filter sand I got off of Amazon. They usually come in about 50-pound bags, but they're also $25 per bag, so that's pretty good value if you ask me, because you can use it in like different tank setups and stuff and still have the same bag. And I also have a couple river rocks from Home Depot that I also got a bag of, which I think that bag was like $6-7 maybe. I kind of forgot, but I know that it was really cheap for the amount of rocks you get. And then the star piece of hardscape in this tank is of course the Bantigi root, and these are actually the dried roots of a Pemphis acidula mangrove tree. So what that means is that these kind of roots or wood are actually very durable and long lasting compared to some other kinds of wood we have available in the hobby. And because they are roots from a tree, obviously, they have some really interesting and crazy structure. Like mine, I personally like it a lot since it took me a while to kind of just rotate the piece around and see what fits best. But I think the way that it is right now, we have some structure on the low ground and then it kind of gradually gets higher and almost reaches the surface. I think that makes it look the best. Now I might get another one in the near future, but I'm not 100% sure on it just because it might limit some of the swimming space for some of the other more active schooling fish that I'll have in here. But overall, I think it's a really awesome wood piece, and I'll leave the link to it to Tannin Aquatics website where I got this piece in the description below. I also have the old coconut hut from Aquarium Co-op that I also bought about 2 months ago, and attached on the top is a piece of Java Fern window lob I glued down. And as you can see, it's growing back quite well, or slowly but well, as in that it actually melted back a lot, so I just kind of trimmed the top off, but kept the rhizome, so you can see how there's little leaves growing out of the rhizome now, and maybe within a couple months that should be a new plant. But the main reason I have this coconut hut in here was because I was thinking about getting a pair of pistogrammas, but that option might be off the table now, since I'm not 100% sure if they'll get along with some of the fish that I do plan on having in here. I'll still give it some more thought because I think a pair of something like a pistogramma hong sloy would be really awesome, since those are some of my favorite pistos. But that cave could also work for some other fish that I do plan on having, so I'll keep it in there for now. But that was just kind of like the main reason I got it in the first place. So next up, I thought I would talk about the botanicals in this tank, since there's obviously a lot of new botanicals, and with a lot of them, there's actually a really funny story that I'll tell really quick when I get to them. But for leaves in this tank, we have catappa leaves from the old build, jackfruit leaves from the old build, but I also found a bag of live oak leaf litter, and as long as you boil them for a while, they're actually safe to use inside the aquarium, and as you can see, I dumped a whole bunch of them into the tank, but I think it really makes it look natural in that way. And then for seed pods, we also have Gigia pods from the old build, and then 2 new seed pods, which are the Pyrifolium pods and Suetinia pods, which are the kind of canoe or banana shaped looking pods, and then the Pyrifolium pods are the really kind of flat teardrop looking pods. So the funny story comes into play with the Pyrifolium pods, Suetenia pods, and the live oak leaf litter. So with the seed pods, this was back in maybe 2019. I had planned to do a Amazon based biotope, Blackwater as well, for some ruby tetras, and I think an apistogramma pair in a 29-gallon tank. So it'd be the ruby tetras as a dinner fish and the apisto pair kind of just as like, you know, kind of the main focus of the tank, but at the same time is like a mix, I guess. But I had ordered those for that tank. That tank never happened, so I just kind of threw those pods away under the stand. And it wasn't until recently when I was cleaning out the stand of the 55-gallon tank, I actually found those pods under the stand, still in the bags, because I never used them. So I was like, huh, these would be pretty good for the new Re-Scape. So I boiled those and threw them in there, and yup, that was 100% the right decision because they look fantastic in the new tank. And the same goes for the live oak leaf litter. That was some Josh's frogs from my old dart frog paldarium. I mean, not paldarium, vivarium. I had never used that bag because it was an extra, and I also found it under the 55-gallon tank stand. So I did a little research, and yet it turns out you can use that if you boil it long enough in the aquarium. So I did that, and it definitely adds a really nice texture and look to the Blackwater tank. And I'm very happy with how everything turned out, and I can't wait to see how it all grows in over these next couple months. And one last point before I go, which is you can see that I did not put any of the Nubius in the middle of the root structure. That's because those smaller branches actually grow a lot more biofilm and algae in my experience than the thicker ones. And this is all very important in the context that during Thanksgiving weekend, I'm actually going to go down to Portland again, and I'm planning to pick up some extremely special and extremely rare autosynclus species that Re-Scapes on Instagram, if he's watching this video, he's already figured out what kind of species those are, and I had no idea that species existed until the Wet Spot posted about them, and from my research as well, they are extremely rare to come by because they only live in a river or a stream, I forgot which one it was, in a national park in South America. So exportation of them is extremely hard to do, and it seems like this year during around the summer is when a big wave of them was exported, and that was like the first big wave in what seems like a couple years at least. So I'm planning on getting about 5 of them, and I do want to do a breeding project with them in this tank, and I think this environment is going to be really perfect for them. Low pH, low hardness, or like low pH and very soft water, lots of biofilm and algae, lots of wood, lots of hiding spots, low flow, perfect places for them to spawn on those plant leaves, especially the Anubias. And yeah, that's kind of just my plan with those fish. They're a super stunning species of autosynclus, and I hope to be able to breed them and raise them up successfully, since from what it sounds like talking to some store owners, this is going to be one of the last times they'll be available in the hobby for a couple years at least, just because of their challenges of being exported from that little national park. So if we can get some captive bred ones out onto the market, that would be absolutely fantastic, and I'd like to help contribute to that. So that's extremely soon. Actually, within like 2 weeks, I might be able to get them. So as long as they don't sell out within that time, you'll bet I'll be coming back home with some extremely special autosynclus. So I'd like to end it off there. I hope everyone likes this new Re-Scape of the 60 Blackwater tank, and I also hope that you like the plants for this tank as well. And if you do like it, please consider subscribing, liking the video, and sharing it around, as well as following me on Instagram, which I'll put the ad up on the screen and in the description below. And with that being it, my name is Northwest Fishkeeping, signing out.